As the festival organizers scrambled to prepare for the jousting tournament, Artemis stared up at the tower with fascination.
Who exactly is this Lady Osmia? I had studied the many houses and lineages of the nobility during my training, but I'd never heard of this House Osmia until recently.
Calder cleared his throat loudly with a self-important grin.
Ahem. I believe I can enlighten you on the topic. House Osmia is a relatively new addition to the nobility, hailing from the uncivilized exterior farmlands outside the city walls. They specialize in druidcraft and have grown rapidly since the disastrous locust famine many years ago.
Calder sighed and shook his head with a hint of disgust.
Druidcraft is such a barbaric class of magic compared to Axia's trademark wizardry, but I suppose it does have its uses. Thanks to their techniques, the city was able to quickly recover from the famine. Osmia's farms now produce 70% of Axia's food and crops. Even the most prestigious of nobles would be hard-pressed to get on their good graces. I believe House Osmia decided to sponsor the Firefly Festival this year as a show of strength to all the other noble houses.
Artemis stared up at Maeve's distant and serious face with wonder.
She is the heir and leader to this growing house? Incredible! She is hardly older than I am.
Calder scoffed.
That is hardly a praiseworthy feat. I too am the heir of my house, and we are but a few years apart. And you can hardly call House Osmia a true house when she is the only member of it. I hear everyone else in her lineage had perished in the locust famine.
Calder sighed and shook his head.
Alas, as diminished as this young house is, they still hold a great deal of power. Grandfather has ordered me to consort with them and bring myself onto their good graces.
Artemis' brow furrowed as she tried her best to hide her growing dislike of this man.
And how will you set about doing that?
By winning the jousting tournament, of course. Osmia would be obligated to bestow a boon upon the victor. I will simply ask Lady Osmia for her hand in marriage.
Artemis spluttered, utterly flabbergasted.
What? Surely she would not be forced to accept such a request.
Well, probably not. But she will be obliged to spend time with me as her suitor above all the other men clamoring for her attention. This would give me ample time to charm her into a partnership with House O'Shanassy.
Artemis glared at Calder with a hard look.
House O'Shanassy must be quite desperate for influence if they are resorting to such underhanded courtship tactics. And with a druid family they look down upon no less.
Calder spluttered furiously, clearly not expecting such a retort.
House O'Shanassy is basking in wealth and power these days, I assure you. We are simply networking in search of better allies and companions. Surely you would understand.
I do not. Companions and allies should be earned through honesty and mutual trust, not through such unchivalrous schemes.
Calder crossed his arms defensively as he glanced over at Cole and Sid.
Oh, and what methods did you use to find those layabouts? Did you pick them up on the side of the street or something? Actually, we got thrown in jail together. And then we gambled in an illegal fighting ring together.
And then we tore down the illegal fighting ring together.
Okay, no. That part's on you. Nobody else here could smite a building into rubble. What? The Creator's Chosen can't be seen with people like you!
Artemis glared at the older hyena coldly.
I would take them over your dishonorable ilk any day.
Something in Calder snapped at her words. He whipped his head towards Agatha desperately.
You, Enchanter! Surely you can see the ridiculousness of the situation. What? I'm just eating breadsticks in a corner, man. Don't drag me into this.
Calder tugged at his hair in frustration. He turned back towards Artemis furiously.
I can take your rejection. But the fact that you would place these low-born scum over the likes of me is an insult I cannot stand for.
He shot a venomous glare towards Cole and Sid.
A filthy mage who denies his own gifts? And an utterly ordinary peasant devoid of talent and status? Don't make me laugh.
Artemy gritted her teeth. Her hand twitched towards her sword.
I will thank you to not speak of my companions in such a way.
I speak the truth. You are out of your mind if you think either of them are more worthy than I.
Calder's frenzied gaze landed on Sid, who nervously took a step back.
You're clearly the weak link of this group. What makes you think you have anything of worth to provide?
Sid flinched.
I don't...
The nobleman's eyes suddenly flashed with a deep shade of arcane blue. Sid's chest squirmed uncomfortably as he felt the glowing gaze pierce through him like knives.
What do you think you're doing?
Behind them, Cole instantly recognized the spell and bolted in front of Sid. But it was too late. The Detect Thoughts spell washed over Sid like an ice-cold wave.
Let me see.
Calder let out a cruel, triumphant laugh.
Ah! He's illiterate? And an utter mess of a man as well. Oh, my dear chosen, where did you find this one?
Sid felt his blood run cold. Calder's grin grew as he continued sifting through the badger's mind.
Unemployed, fired from at least a dozen jobs, spends all his time daydreaming about becoming a hero he knows he's incapable of becoming, while his parents toil at a thankless job. And he's adopted too? This just keeps getting better.
Sid growled and took a menacing step forward. Calder didn't even flinch.
Shut your goddamn mouth! Oh, hush! You're too delicate to do anything to me. I can read your entire mind. And you agree with me.
Calder cackled with delight.
Ah! You have no idea why these two even keep you around. You've got nothing to contribute and are a waste of their precious time. Oh, sweet Cole, so patient and supportive of you, taking you under his wing and teaching you to read. Something you should have learned ages ago if you were a functioning person.
Panic shot through Sid's chest. He whipped around to see Cole staring at him wide-eyed.
And dear Artemy, what a perfect warrior, kind and humble and brimming with power. A true personification of the hero you've dreamed of becoming. But you are just an ant standing beneath her. Ah!
Dispel magic!
Artemy lunged forward, fist still flashing with sparks of lightning. She roughly grabbed Calder by the collar and slammed him against the wall of the booth. The wood buckled under the force of her blow as she growled with uncontrolled rage.
You go too far, you despicable!
Despite being lifted off his feet, Calder managed a goading grin.
Oh, but don't you see? He hates you. Your beloved companion utterly despises you. Every time he sees you, his blood boils over with envy. He can't even stand to be in your presence anymore. This is the companion who you so gladly treasure.
Artemy faltered. She looked towards Sid, shocked and wounded. But the moment they locked eyes and she saw the badger's utterly broken expression, she inhaled sharply and turned back towards Calder. Her fist plunged forward with a crack. A shower of splintered wood scattered across the viewing booth as Artemy sank a hole into the wall inches next to Calder's head. Artemy let out a deep breath.
You are an utterly vile man, Calder O'Shanassy. Give me one reason why I shouldn't beat you senseless.
Calder's brave face was shaken after nearly taking an armored fist to the skull, but he managed a confident sneer.
Oh, my dear chosen, have you forgotten where you are? What would the church do when people find out that the Creator's chosen is an untamed brute who terrorizes the weak? Oh, the shame you would bring upon your dear bishop of a mother.
Artemy froze and looked up. The entire arena was silent, all eyes trained on their little booth in the corner. Thousands of shocked spectators, from commoners to nobles, watched Artemy hastily retract her fist from the wooden wall of the booth, like a child caught red-handed. She glared at Calder's smug face, voice dipping low.
So this was your ploy.
The noble shrugged with a smirk.
What can I say? I do not take insults well. Anyone who crosses House O'Shaughnessy will be sure to pay the consequences.
He laughed gleefully.
Oh, so what will you do, my dear chosen? Our audience is starting to whisper and wonder about what is happening down here. I suppose you can continue beating on me. That'll do your reputation wonders. And if you retreat without a word, House O'Shaughnessy can easily twist the inevitable rumors to our advantage.
He tapped his chin thoughtfully.
Though I suppose if you groveled at my feet and apologized, I would be open to sparing you the social scrutiny you would undoubtedly face.
Artemy growled, gritting her teeth in frustration. This scum of a man deserved no such apology. She had half the mind to beat him into the dirt for his slight against Sid. However, she could not deny that Calder was ultimately right about her situation. She could not make a move against him without soiling hers and the church's reputation, and she was in hot water with her excellency to begin with. Her claim to the Creator's chosen title would be forfeit, and she would likely drag the Knight Commander down with her. The logical course of action was to publicly apologize, but the sight of Calder's smug grin made her blood boil.
Oh? Are you refusing to apologize? I suppose I should start crying out for help. The Creator's chosen clearly has malevolent intentions towards me, a helpless citizen.
Fine. I apologize.
A sharp snap of fingers suddenly interrupted their exchange. Cole's voice reverberated throughout the entire stadium, its volume amplified through prestidigitation.
Calder O'Shaughnessy, you've insulted the honor of both of my underlings and committed a dire breach of privacy through a detect thought spell. As leader of this adventuring party, I cannot allow this insult to stand. I, Colony Bonebreaker, hereby challenge you to a public duel.
Curious and excited murmurs instantly swept through the arena as onlookers watched their little group eagerly. Calder whipped around and stared at Cole in shock. Cole gave him an unimpressed look.
What? You think Artemy's the only one with the reputation on the line? Your granddaddy won't be very happy to hear that you're involved in a public scandal and then lose to a commoner in a duel. What will people think of your precious O'Shaughnessy name then? You have some nerve. Took the words right out of my mouth, buddy. You violated my lackey's mind and then pinned my other lackey into social suicide. I ain't about to let that slide. Unlike you foppish nobles, you bonebreakers take care of our own. I will crush you.
Calder faltered for a moment before sneering.
Fine. I, Calder O'Shaughnessy, accept your challenge. You cannot hope to defeat me without using that magic you keep so poorly hidden. Say goodbye to your little secret. I, for one, will not be losing to a fraud.
Cole's grip on his lute tightened.
We'll see.
The nobility and festival organizers peered down on the scene below with bewilderment.
Apologies, gentlemen. We cannot allow a duel in the middle of the Firefly Festival arena.
Maeve Osmia suddenly stood up and waved her hand.
And why not? Pray tell. As I said earlier, the first day of the Firefly Festival is meant to celebrate the spirit of competition and rivalry with our fellow man. And what better rivalry than the heir of the noble House O'Shaughnessy and the son of Axia's greatest mercenary warrior? I motion that we allow this public duel to commence.
The festival announcer glanced nervously between Maeve and the members of nobility standing behind her. After a beat, he turned back towards the crowd.
Very well. Ladies and gentlemen, as an appetizer to our main event, we will be hosting a public duel between Sirs Calder O'Shaughnessy and Quality Bonebreaker. We invite the two of you to take your place at the center of the arena.
Calder eagerly strutted towards the center of the stadium, already confident in his victory. Artemy and Sid exchanged anxious looks as Cole readied his loot.
Cole? Are you really intending to expose your magical abilities in this duel? Sir Mara will surely hear about it. Do you really think you can win?
Cole shrugged.
Win or lose, everything works out for us in the end. Either the situation gets taken off of Artemy, and people won't be favorable towards Calder for a shitty stunt. More importantly,
He turned towards Sid with concern.
you doing okay, buddy?
Me? I'm fine. Yeah, it's nothing. Sorry I dragged us into another mess again.
Despite his insistence, Sid's stiff shoulders and clenched jaw betrayed his broken state of mind. Cole placed a firm hand on his shoulder.
You did nothing wrong. We're in this mess because Calder's an asshole. After this shitstorm is done, we'll go to Mrs. Strikewood's for some tea and talk everything out. Sound good?
Sid nodded quietly.
Yeah.
Cole pressed a firm hand to Sid's chest and leaned close.
Listen, man. At the end of the day, you're my friend. I don't keep you around because of some pity party or sense of usefulness. I just genuinely like hanging out with you. And I'm genuinely better off for having known you. So keep your chin up, okay?
Okay.
Cole gave him one last reassuring nod before making his way towards the field. A low silence hung in their viewing booth as they watched him leave. After a beat, Artemy quietly sat down next to Sid with a gentle look.
You're not angry? Why would I be angry? All that stuff Calder said about my thoughts.
Artemy fell silent for a moment, pondering her next words carefully.
Did I do something wrong?
Sid curled up on the floor and buried his face in his knees.
No. I see. Would it help if I left?
Sid sucked in a deep breath of air.
No! I like having you around. I really do. You're my friend. I'm just a jealous fucking asshole for feeling like this. Do not apologize for your emotions, Sir Sid. You cannot simply disagree with the feeling. This is just a part of life, as the Knight Commander always says.
Artemy shook her head with an incredulous laugh. She sat down on the floor next to Sid with a patient smile.
Truly, though, I never imagined myself as someone worthy of such jealousy.
Sid snapped up with a patronized glare.
You're the creator's chosen! You were born with ridiculous power and the respect of everyone who knows your name. Common folk like me, well, Calder was right. I'm basically an ant next to you.
Quite ironic, as you tower above me in physical height.
I'm being serious!
Artemis smiled.
Perhaps the true irony is that you regard me as such a perfect individual. In my early years, the church considered me a defective chosen. Despite these stories about the Creator blessing me at childbirth, I possessed no such magical abilities as a child.
Sid blinked with surprise.
That's not what the people have been saying.
Yes, the church does have a certain image to uphold. But at the age where most chosen showed signs of great celestial power, I had next to nothing. The healers and arcanists at the church detected great potential within me, but I had nothing to show for it. I could barely even keep a candle alight. Her Excellency was most furious with me.
Artemis grew quiet.
The world needed a chosen one to face whatever threat comes its way, and I was not ready to fill the role. That crushing sensation of waking up every day knowing that you are not enough? I suppose I can relate. Some days it grew to the point where I debated whether it was worth waking up to.
Sid's chest lurched.
I didn't think someone like you would have to deal with this kind of thing.
The knight let out a small chuckle.
I thought the same of you. You have always struck me as such a kind and reliable man. And more honest than Cole, at the very least.
Sid managed a small chuckle.
That's not a very high bar.
Sid gazed at Artemis, his chest heavy with a confusing storm of emotions.
Hey, Artemis?
Yes?
If you don't mind me asking, how did you end up waking your powers? And dealing with that crushing feeling?
The knight fell silent. After a moment, she gingerly reached into her pocket and pulled out a tiny, aged candle. It was rather short and thoroughly used. There were small impressions in the wax made by a small hand, as though a child had held it in a deathly tight grip.
Upon a chosen's death, the blessing of the Creator's chosen passes on to the next worthy candidate. And thus, at the age of 15, I was given an ultimatum. Keep this candle alight through a winter storm for one whole night, and the church will deem me strong enough to nurture into the next chosen. Fail, and the power will pass on to someone more worthy than I.
Sid felt his stomach drop.
What? They can't put that kind of pressure on a child.
It is prophesied that the world would succumb to great tragedies should the Creator's chosen fail their duty. Is the happiness of one child truly so high a price? A knight's duty is to her people. I was willing to do what must be done.
Sid stared at the tiny candle in her hands with growing dread.
So, you passed the test then? The church agreed to keep working with you?
Artemis rolled the candle in her hands thoughtfully.
Can you keep a secret, Sir Sid?
What? Wait, you don't mean...
She laughed bitterly.
I failed. The candle went out halfway through the night, and I was left to trot through a blizzard for an entire night. I think at some point I simply gave up and waited for the frigid cold to take me.
How in the world did you survive?
A bittersweet smile spread across her face as she rubbed a gentle thumb over the worn wick of the candle.
A very kind old man said he would miss me if I were gone. And I suppose I couldn't bear the thought of making him sad. And so I fought to stay. Just a little longer.
Artemis gently hid the candle back in her pocket.
From that day forward, I held a deep anger within me. Anger towards myself for being unable to fulfill my duty, for always disappointing my loved ones. This wrath became the foundation for my magic. It was the fuel for my first spell and all that came after.
Small sparks of electricity pulsed from her hand.
You know, the creator's chosen is usually a light domain cleric. We should be wielding the warm, comforting flames of the creator to spread her love to all who bask in her light.
A bitter laugh escaped Artemy's throat.
My magic was too volatile, too furious. I ended up becoming a Tempest Domain cleric, a seemingly impossible feat for someone who worships the same deity. I still can't really light candles, only zap them aflame with lightning. Another disappointment added to Her Excellency's long list, I'm sure. While wrath isn't the healthiest foundation for one's strength, it has kept me going, at the very least.
She turned towards Sid with a genuinely appreciative smile.
I do not know what the cure for your feelings of jealousy may be, but perhaps you should look inward for a foundation of strength as well? Hopefully one that is much better than mine. You know, I concur with what Cole said to you earlier. I also enjoy having you around, and my life is better for having known you. At the end of the day, you are my friend as well. Please remember that, regardless of what doubts you may have.
Sid looked up at Artemy. Her patient smile felt warm. Sid felt undeserving, but he swallowed the bitter thought back down.
Thanks.
A loud sniffle suddenly broke them out of their thoughts. The two glanced around to see Agatha blowing her nose on a tissue while wiping away a tear.
Now, you kids are too sweet. What a heartwarming display of friendship. This is better than the theater troupe's last big production.
Sorry, but can you cast Deafen on yourself again?
Agatha scowled indignantly.
What? Fine. Kids these days, always so afraid to show some emotion for once.